So this one is from Suzanne. Are the Padres the biggest disappointment of 2023? And I'll double down here because I watched half of yesterday's game when I got home, Padres Royals, and I'm like, what? It's the same thing over and over in this series. There's walks, there's bad base running, there's not delivering with runners in scoring position, and it happens. Everyone has a bad series, but it's getting late early or whatever you want to call it. Not for them to be a playoff team, but for them to take the division. So, what did you write about, and what are your thoughts there?
First of all, they just lost 2 of 3 to the Royals at home. The Royals, arguably the second worst team in the majors, ahead of only the A's. So that tells you all you need to know. They have not been able to get it going. Runners in scoring position, horrible. The offense, which we all thought would be so great, not so great. Now we have Manny with a potential injury. A lot going wrong there. And are they the biggest disappointment of 2023? Until last night, I might have said the Mets, but the Mets win last night was so potentially transformative that I'll take them out of this discussion until I see more. I know they're playing the Rays right now. The Padres, what I wrote is that this is a team that has been slapped together. It is not a team where you see a particularly coherent roster construction. There are stars. It's a top-heavy roster. There's not much of a bottom of the lineup. Depth is not great. The pitching, both starting and relief, there are questions all over the place. So while, yes, it's a fun team because of the great players that they have, it's not necessarily a cohesive team. And I know a lot of fans reacted, Padres fans, by saying, it's all baloney. If they start hitting, everything will be fine. True. Everything will be fine if that happens. And it probably will happen. But you look at the team just to the north, the Dodgers, and the way they are constructed with far many more homegrown players, with guys who have been there a while that weren't necessarily homegrown, but played on World Series teams, Chris Taylor, Max Muncy, those types of guys. And there's a winning culture. It's been a winning culture for a decade now. The Padres don't have that. And I know they had a great year last year. They went to the National League Championship Series. A.J. Preller is great at identifying talent and acquiring talent. But he is yet to put together this kind of team that you can say, wow, that's a team. And that's the difference between the Padres and the Dodgers. Now, ultimately, and I wrote this, the Padres might just out-talent everybody, and more power to them. But we're not seeing it. And the things that I'm talking about, things that cannot be measured, are part of it. And you can say this, that, and the other thing, but this stuff, and you guys know this because you played, Eric and AJ, the cohesion of a team, the chemistry of a team having a certain identity, that stuff does matter.
It absolutely matters. Which leads me to my next question. You mentioned the Mets. The Padres, I don't know, the Dodgers are just better for some reason. You can look at the talent and say the Padres should be better, but the Dodgers are. And you can't explain it. But for me, for the Mets, we've talked about the last few days, Buck Showalter loves veterans. We kind of know that, right? They call up Vientos. He hits a home run for him, a huge home run for him last night. Will they call up some of these kids and give them an actual chance? Alvarez hit the 3-run homer last night late in the game. Then obviously Alonso hit the walk-off. But Vientos and Alvarez were the two that got him there. When will the Mets make a change and bring up some of their young guys for an energy source and then say, okay, now we have more of a homegrown, tight-knit group of people, kind of like what you're saying about the Dodgers and the Padres?
AJ, I think it's happening. And they've been playing Beatty and Alvarez regularly. Alvarez last night, his biggest moment as a Met, that game-tying home run. He has drawn rave reviews for his catching, which was, of course, the biggest question. You watch him, you watch his body language, he certainly seems to care a lot. So they've got two pieces right there. Vientos is a little bit different because it's tougher to fit him in positionally. He's not a great defender anywhere, but they brought him up yesterday. He hit a big home, the first one to tie the score in the 7th inning. So the only one missing now is Mauricio, and who knows, he could be here soon. And to get back to the Padres point, bringing up these 3 guys that the Mets have, that's something the Padres can't do. They've traded everybody. Now, those trades have been fun. They've gotten them great players, but there's something missing there that you don't have. You don't have the ability to go down and get that young talent that the Mets can do, that the Dodgers are getting with Outman and Vargas and some of their players that you see all over the league, the Orioles, all kinds of teams, the Red Sox last night with Bayo. So that is one thing that I think the Mets are actually on the right track with. They don't have young pitching. And what they've done or tried to do is spend on free agents, particularly on the pitching end, until they can get some young pitching that is at the level that they need. They haven't really succeeded in any aspect of that so far. But in terms of bringing up the young position players, they're doing that. They're incorporating them, and those guys are succeeding.
Ken, the Padres, and we're harping on the Padres today, which is fine because, again, you lose 2 out of 3 of the Royals. You kind of get what you get, especially at home. What's their clubhouse like? Who's the? We had a whole thing with the Mets. Who's their leader in their clubhouse? Who's the leader of that team? Is it Manny? Is it Fernando? Is it Bogarts, who's new? Who's the leader? And is there any clubhouse? Because I've heard some conversations about some things there that maybe they're not the most cohesive unit. Now, I'm not saying it's true. I don't know because, again, I'm not there. But who's the leader and what's it like every day on that clubhouse?
I would say, at least according to what I've heard, that the idea that the Padres aren't getting along, that the 4 big stars don't like each other, these are things I've heard too. I asked that pretty directly last weekend to somebody involved and was told categorically that's not the case. That yes, you'll have some normal frictions, normal jealousies, but it's not like these players all hate each other. That's not the case at all. Who is the leader? Probably a better question, but Manny is certainly the centerpiece of this team in a couple of different ways. Contractually, certainly he's got the biggest deal, and also he plays every day. Now, he's got this question after the injury yesterday, but Manny's biggest attribute, and the one he gets no credit for, is his durability. He is neck and neck with Goldschmidt for games played since the start of 2015. That, to me, is a measure of leadership in its own right. Now, is he the perfect vocal guy? I don't know that he's that. He is who he is, but he has grown as a player quite a bit. He is much more mature. I think he'll always have some degree of moodiness. That's just who he is. But I don't know that leadership is the problem. I don't know what the problem is. But, guys, we know this. When a team doesn't have it can be apparent at times. And sometimes it's a team that's not hitting, and when a team is not hitting, they never look good. And that's certainly part of it with the Padres. But I still question the culture there. And there is not this history of winning. There's not these built-in traditions that have been established there over the years, as there have been with the Dodgers. Part of that's because this is an upstart team. We get that. We understand. But at some point, the Padres have to build that. They have to get to that. And the way they're constructed, it's not that easy.